you ever have a feeling that you feel a little less than, or that something's missing after just scrolling through Instagram or Facebook? Like you feel like you're not where you want to be in life, or that others are ahead of you. Well, that's the quiet power of comparison at work. And it's like the old saying goes, it really is the thief of joy. And the research and science backs this. I'm Horvig, thank you for joining me in this video. Now let's get into it. Well, what is comparison, and why do we do it? Social comparison is a natural human process. Psychologist Leon Festinger first coined the social comparison theory back in the 1950s. The idea is that we evaluate ourselves based on how we measure up to others, because it gives us a sense of where we stand in our lives and in society. But here's the catch. We're no longer comparing ourselves to just our neighbours or co-workers. We're comparing ourselves to millions of curated, filtered snapshots of other people's lives. Every time we go to social media, we are met with a wave of content that makes us feel like we are never doing enough. We aren't where we want to be, and that almost everybody we know has this amazing life while ours feels plain. And that's where things can go sideways in our minds. Let's look at what the research says. A 2014 study on social media use and self-esteem found that people who spend more time comparing themselves to others on platforms like Facebook and Instagram reported significantly lower self-esteem. Why is this? This can be chalked up to the fact that people tend to present their best selves online. Achievements, perfect photos, amazing food, and curated lifestyles on the beach. When you compare your everyday reality to someone else's highlight reel, it distorts your self-image, makes you feel less than you actually are. The more people compared themselves to others on social media, the more likely they were to experience envy and the less happy they felt overall. Further studies showed that upwards comparison, that is, comparing yourself to people who you perceive as better off, showed a strong link to depressive symptoms, especially when it triggered rumination, such as overthinking about the current state of your life, suppressing your ability to positively project yourself into the future. Here's what's happening under the surface. When we compare ourselves to others, it activates the inner critic. It tells us thoughts like, you're not doing enough, you'll never be like them, and you'll never know success. But the good news is, this can be overcome. Over time, this leads to decreased self-worth, increased anxiety and stress, and feelings of inadequacy or hopelessness. And in therapy, we often see that comparison is tied to shame, perfectionism, and even trauma responses, where someone learned early on that their worth depended on being as good as someone else. So what's the way out? Let's shift gears here and figure out what we can do in these situations. Let's get one thing straight. It's okay to want to grow, improve, or even be inspired, but it shouldn't come at the cost of your peace. So here are some things that we can help empower us. Practice self-compassion. Dr. Christine Neff's research on self-compassion shows that people who treat themselves with kindness rather than judgment have greater emotional resilience, less anxiety, and more stable self-worth. Ask yourself, would I talk to a friend the way I talk to myself? Would I put down the efforts of others the same way that I put down my own? Would I ever tell another person that they weren't good enough when they were vulnerable? Track internal progress, not external applause. Instead of asking, how do I compare to them? Try asking, am I further along than I was last month? Am I living according to my values, not the algorithms? Limit exposure to toxic comparison triggers. You don't have to follow every influencer, entrepreneur, or fitness model online. Curate your feed to inspire you, not to silently shame you. And finally, use comparison as an insight, not a weapon. If you catch yourself feeling envy, pause. Instead of spiraling into self-criticism, ask, what does this feeling tell me about what I value or desire? Use it as a compass, not a verdict. Comparison isn't always a bad thing, especially if you use it as a tool to inspire you towards a goal you want to achieve. Look, you're never going to be anyone else, and that's your power. The more time you spend comparing yourself to others is the less time you spend curating and developing your own story. So here's some permission. You're allowed to go at your own pace. You're allowed to measure yourself by how you feel on the inside. And you're allowed to feel good about yourself just the way you are. So, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in our next video. Bye now.